Greens everyone, Cellophane Dance 98 back at it again with another reaction. We're back at it again with Power Rangers, every Red Ranger ever. From Super Sentai and the Power Rangers, very important to distinct there. But we are going to be enjoying these guys because I do enjoy some good Red Rangers. And we're in the 2000s now. Going to be doing part 1 today. Then I think break for a Toku song from Art 93. Then we'll go on to part 2 along with another song from him. But for now, this is what we're going to do and be able to enjoy ourselves. So let's get into it.
The next Super Sentai series that released was Time Ranger, but before we talk about the main Time Red of the series, we have to talk about the original one, Captain Yuya Asami. He was the commanding officer of the Time Defense Bureau in the year 3000. Yuya was cold and self-serving. He was obsessed with creating a version of the future that he wants, trying to save his own life while at the same time caring very little for others. That obsession ironically resulted in his downfall, where he was fatally wounded and died. Yuya was played by Masaru Nagai, who also played Tatsuya. Captain Yuya had a creative story revolving around time manipulation that added a lot to the show. He's one of the darkest examples of a Red Ranger in Sentai history, since he carries the Red Ranger role, but he has no interest in being a hero.
He's more interested in his own interests.
Time Ranger's main Time Red was Tatsuya Asami. Tatsuya was a 22-year-old martial artist and the son of a wealthy family, with his father expecting him to eventually inherit the Asami group. But Tatsuya didn't want his life decided for him. He wanted to choose his own future. After 4 Time Protection Department cadets from the 30th century chased the criminal Don Donero back to the year 2000, they needed Tatsuya's DNA to unlock their chrono changers. That pulled him into the fight, and Tatsuya became Time Red. Tatsuya's whole
So his DNA was the key to this? That's a nice twist.
Character is built around rejecting fate. Time Ranger is a season about time, history, and the future. So having the Red Ranger be someone who refused to accept a predetermined path for his life fits perfectly here. Tatsuya isn't from the 30th century like the others, and he isn't a professional time officer. He's the one guy from the present who gets dragged into the massive future conflict and decides to fight on his own terms. Tatsuya was brave and idealistic. He can be reckless, but he also has a strong moral center and a desire to help people. Because he joins an already established team, most of the leadership duties fall to Yori or Time Pink, but Tatsuya slowly becomes more and more of the leader over time. He's Yuya's ancestor, and that premise was super unique and made him one of the most memorable Red Rangers of the 2000s.
The more you know. Oh, Fire Red.
Also featured in Time Ranger was Naoto Takizawa, better known as Time Fire. Naoto was a former college acquaintance and rival of Tatsuya, but unlike Tatsuya, he didn't come from wealth or privilege. He had to fight his way through life with pure ambition, and he carried a lot of resentment towards Tatsuya because of the advantages that Tatsuya seemed to have. After the Asami group formed the City Guardians to protect the city from Launder's attacks, Naoto became one of their members, eventually getting his hands on the V Commander and transforming into Time Fire. Time Fire isn't just another Red Ranger on the team. He has his own agenda. He doesn't join the Time Rangers in the traditional sense, he fights alongside them when it benefits him. He's ambitious and extremely driven. He wants power and recognition, and that makes him feel a lot different from Tatsuya. That contrast makes their rivalry one of the most interesting parts of Time Ranger. Time Fire took the Red Ranger archetype and flipped it on its head. He was an anti-hero that had his own goals and motivations, a 6th Ranger that wore red but was far from the typical Red Rangers that Sentai fans had seen before.
Almost was like a Vegeta and Goku vibe at that point. One has his own self-interest, the other one just wants to protect things.
In the name of Time Force, I place you under arrest. You don't know what you're up against. You know what you're up against, Rancic.
The original Red Time Force Ranger was Alex Drake, from Power Rangers Time Force. Alex was a Time Force officer in the year 3000 and Jen's fiancé. After Rancic escaped custody, Alex tried to stop him, but Rancic overpowered him and left him for dead. Believing that Alex had been killed, Jin took his red chronomorpher and led the others back to the year 2001 to stop Rancic from changing history. Much like Yuya and Time Ranger, Alex gives us a version of the Red Ranger that existed before the main Red Ranger of the season. But while Yuya was manipulative and morally questionable, Alex is more complicated in a different way. He starts out as the heroic original Red Ranger, but when he returns later on in the season, he's colder and more controlling. Alex is disciplined, serious, and mission-focused. He clearly cares about Jin and the future, but he also has a rigid view of how things are supposed to happen. When he comes back to the past and briefly takes over as the Red Ranger again, he treats the team more like officers under his command instead of actual people. Wes Collins was the main Red Time Force Ranger from Power Rangers Time Force. Wes was the wealthy son of Mr. Collins, the head of Biolab and founder of the Silver Guardians. On the surface, Wes had everything handed to him: money, status, and a future already planned out by his father. But when the Time Force Rangers traveled from the year 3000 to 2001, they needed someone with Alex's DNA to activate the Red Chronomorpher. Because Wes was Alex's ancestor and genetic match, he was the only person in the present day who could unlock the powers. That pulled him into the fight against Ransik, making him the new Red Ranger. Much like in Time Ranger, Wes starts off as a rich kid who doesn't really know what he wants to do with his life, but becoming a Ranger gives him purpose. Unlike Alex, who represents duty, control, and preserving the future, Wes represents free will. He believes that the future can change, and he proves that people don't have to be trapped by what history says they're supposed to become.
I wish I could live another 1,000 years so we could be together again.
Wes was brave, kind-hearted, and more emotionally vulnerable than Alex. He isn't the most experienced member of the team, and Jin is still the one with the most command experience, but Wes grows into the Red Ranger role by earning the team's trust. He leads less like a strict officer and more like someone who genuinely cares about the people around him. That makes his version of Red feel a lot warmer and more human.
No argument on that one. That's actually a pretty dang good Red Ranger there. Oh, Quantum Red.
Also featured on
Brutal.
Time Force was Eric Myers, better known as the Quantum Ranger. Eric was a member of the Silver Guardians, the private security force created by Wes's father to protect Silver Hills. He and Wes actually knew each other from private school, but unlike Wes, Eric didn't come from wealth. He grew up with less, had to fight for everything he had, and carried a lot of resentment towards Wes because of the privilege that he seemed to have. When the Quantum Morpher was discovered, Eric saw his chance to finally gain real power and recognition. So instead of letting the Time Force Rangers claim it, he took it for himself and became the Quantum Ranger. He wants status, authority, and the respect he feels he deserves. That makes him a very different kind of Ranger compared to Wes. Wes rejects the easy future that's handed to him, while Eric is trying to claim a future that was never handed to him at all. Eric was bitter, guarded, and extremely independent. He doesn't like accepting help, and for a lot of the season, he treats the other Rangers more like rivals than teammates. But underneath that tough exterior, he does have some real heroic qualities. He wants to protect the city, and he takes that role seriously. And over time, he becomes more willing to work with Wes and the others. Much like with Time Fire, the Quantum Ranger gave the show a lot of character contrast, with one Red born into privilege trying to become better, and another Red born without privilege trying to prove his worth.
Makes an interesting contrast, but not one I'm complaining about.
Next up is Kakeru Shishi, who transforms into Gao Red from Gao Ranger. Kakeru was a veterinarian with a love for animals. When the orgs began threatening the world, he was chosen by Gao Lion to become Gao Red, making him the 5th member to join the Gao Rangers and eventually serving as the team's leader in their fight to protect all life on Earth. Gao Red tied the Red Ranger role directly to nature, animals, and the idea of protecting life. He fights because, to him, every living thing is worth protecting. He's kind, sympathetic, and warm-hearted, but he's also brave and determined when the situation gets serious. One of his unique traits is that he
always a good feature to have for any Red Ranger leader.
Can understand and communicate with animals, which fits perfectly with the wild animal theme of Gao Ranger. That makes him feel like a natural fit for the team's theme, because his civilian life and the role of the Red Ranger both revolve around animals.
I mean, it's a pretty good way to do it at that point.
Protecting nature is my path now. There has to be another way to stop the orgs besides fighting them.
Next up is Cole Evans, better known as the Red Wild Force Ranger from Power Rangers Wild Force. Cole was the son of scientists Richard and Elizabeth Evans, who were researching the lost world of Animaria with their colleague Victor Adler. But after Adler became corrupted by the Org Seeds and murdered Cole's parents, Cole was left behind as a baby and eventually raised by a jungle tribe. Years later, his adoptive family gave him a picture of his parents and the Red Lion Crystal, sending him out into the world to discover his past and find his destiny. That journey eventually brought him to Turtle Cove, where he met the Wild Force Rangers and became the Red Ranger chosen by the Red Lion. He had a deep spiritual connection to animals, the earth, and the Wild Swords. That makes him feel much more primal and instinctive than most Power Rangers Reds before him.
Hi, I'm cool. Good.
He isn't the most tactical or polished leader, especially early on, but he leads through heart, instinct, and pure belief in the mission. And because his personal story connects directly to Master Org, the main villain of the season, his fight becomes deeply personal. He wasn't just protecting the Earth, he confronted the tragedy that shaped his entire life.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta avenge your parents there, dude.
The next Super
Joel kills me.
Sentai season was Hurricaneer, which featured Yosuke Shina, or Hurricane Red. Yosuke was a student at a ninja school when the space ninja group Jakanja attacked. He and 2 other surviving students were chosen to become the Hurricaneers, with Yosuke becoming Hurricane Red and leading the team. Hurricaneger was a return to a ninja theme, but Hurricane Red had a very different energy from Sasuke and Kaku Ranger. Yosuke is still goofy at times, but he feels a lot more like an action hero. Even when the situation looked hopeless, he kept pushing forward. That determination became one of his defining traits. That's why he's the leader, even though he doesn't always seem like the most polished or disciplined member of the team. Yosuke wasn't a perfect commander, but he was extremely driven and he grew into the role with heart and persistence. Also featured in Hurricaneger was Iko Kasumi, who transformed into Kabuto Raiger. Iko was the older of the two Kasumi brothers, and unlike the Hurricanegers, they were trained in a rival ninja school with a much more brutal philosophy. After Jakanja attacked and destroyed their academy, the Kasumi brothers survived and became the Go Raigers, with Iko becoming Kabuto Raiger. Like Time Fire, Kabuto Raiger was another example of a second Red Ranger within his season. In addition to being a darker shade of red, Iko had a completely different energy compared to Hurricane Red. He was cold, serious, and aggressive, and along with his brother, he fought against the Hurricanegers before eventually becoming their allies. His fighting style is based around shadow-style techniques, and his theme is the Rhinoceros Beetle. Along with Time Fire, Kabuto Raiger changed what a Red Ranger could be: a rival, an anti-hero, and a darker shade of red.
I mean, true. And then
Next we look at Shane Clark,
Ninja Storm,
the Red Wind Ranger from Power Rangers Ninja Storm. Shane was a student at the Wind Ninja Academy, training alongside Tori and Dustin before Lothor attacked the school and captured most of the other students. Because Shane, Tori, and Dustin were the only ones left, they were given the Wind Morphers and became the Wind Rangers, with Shane becoming the Red Ranger and the leader of the team. Compared to previous Reds, Shane had a more laid-back kind of energy. He starts off as a young ninja student who still has a lot to learn, but he also has the confidence and natural courage that makes him a good fit as the Red Ranger. He's brave, loyal, and determined, but he can also be stubborn and a little too sure of himself sometimes. After several seasons with more professional or serious Red Rangers, Shane was younger and more energetic. He still had the responsibility of leading the team, but he did it with a more relaxed, modern style that fit the early 2000s perfectly.
You down there in the bug suits!
He better not be talking to us.
Ninja Storm also featured Hunter Bradley, better known as the Crimson Thunder Ranger. Hunter was a student at the Thunder Ninja Academy, training alongside his younger brother Blake. But after Lothor attacked the ninja academies, Hunter and Blake were manipulated into believing that Sensei Watanabe was responsible for their parents' deaths. Because of that, the Thunder Rangers originally came after the Wind Rangers as enemies, with Hunter becoming the Crimson Thunder Ranger and leading the attack against Shane, Tori, and Dustin.
It's showtime.
Hunter's intense, disciplined, and driven by anger, which makes him feel like a serious threat when he first appears. He's stubborn and hard-headed, and once he believes someone is his enemy, he fully commits to that fight. But after learning the truth about Lothor's deception, Hunter and Blake eventually turn against him and become allies to the Wind Rangers. Even then, Hunter keeps a more serious edge compared to the rest of the team, which helps him stand out as more than just another extra ranger. Hunter was a dark kind of Red Ranger that gave the season a lot of contrast.
Yep. Body Ranger. But we'll stop here for now. I think it's a good stop point. We've gone through quite a few Red Rangers on this, especially the anti-hero rival Red Rangers of the Quantum Ranger, Time Fire, Kabuto Ranger, Crimson Thunder Ranger, Hurricane Ranger, all those guys. So I think it's a good stopping point at that point. But for now, I hope you guys are looking forward to seeing the second half of the 2000s Rangers after we get the next Toku song going. I also had a question I'm going to post, but I found this awesome series called Nerd Science. They look at comic books, movies, video games, all those things, and put them in different scenarios, such as, would Doomslayer survive the SCP Foundation? Would Doomslayer survive the Justice League? Would Deathstroke survive Raccoon City? Would John Wick survive Raccoon City? All these little things. It's pretty interesting, actually. Pretty interesting. It's definitely some questions I wouldn't mind having answered. But for now, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Please like, comment, subscribe down below. I look forward to seeing you guys in the Toku Song by Art 93 next. Bye!